I could not forgive myself or God for what I blamed God for. I felt God had shut himself off from me, and at that time it was always himself. It was much easier to make the local piano bar my church. If I was drunk, I could let my guards down. I could become vulnerable. I dated a lot. I mean, take a number a lot. Yet I dated men who were emotionally unavailable or distant. And I guess that's exactly what I wanted. Sex and true intimacy are two vastly different things. Who wants to take the risk of truly loving one, losing them to violence, to AIDS, to anything? So, being lonely, I ended up in the wrong relationship that I knew was the wrong relationship even going in. We built what seemed to be a life. We bought a brownstone together and had lots of dogs, and I convinced myself that we were happy. Yet I sleptwalked through this relationship. We both did our semi-open relationship thing, which I thought was so sophisticated. But I found that it slowly destroyed any love and trust we may have had and brought me to a very dark place. My partner could not comprehend my background and openly mocked my quest to reconcile my Christian faith with who I had become as an adult gay male. I began working on Sundays. I let my participation with MCC New York fall by the wayside. I resumed my drunken visuals at the piano bar any chance I had. I wanted to dull my lingering sense of not being in fellowship with God. I felt that God had stopped speaking, maybe because I drank too much, or I smoked too much, or I partied too much, or I cruised too much, maybe I slept around too much. I was exhausted. Fine. I decided, God, if you're not going to talk to me, I'm not going to talk to you. I went on a year-long spiritual quest, and I studied other religions. I really enjoyed studying New Age mysticism. At the end of that time, I had an experience where Jesus told me that just because I felt I had abandoned him, he would never abandon me. I shut Jesus out. He would never do that to me. But I began to pray again. It was the beginning of coming out on the other side. Deconstruction was a painful but a positive, necessary experience for me. At first, I thought my story was over. I thought God had stamped null and void on my calling, on my life. It was only after recognizing the emotional abuse inherent within the fundamentalist worldview and firing the angry, unforgiving God of fundamentalism that I was able to take the first step in my ongoing healing. The beauty at the end of the iconoclastic road is that once the false images of what you believe to be God are destroyed and the idol of your own making lies in ruin at your feet, then you can finally see when the dust clears and allow the true God to begin the process of not reconstruction, but reconciliation. My partner and I came to a crisis. We were over, and we began fighting about the house and the dogs and property rights. I went to God and I said, Lord, I don't know what this yearning in me is. I don't know why I feel so empty and incomplete, but I give it to you. I want to become what you want and go where you want, but I'm afraid I don't want to lose my house. But I know that where I am is killing me, Lord. Please show me where to go. As God and I began to talk again, I was in a pseudo leather bar in Greenwich Village, where a conversation with two other strangers. and took on the tone of an old Salvation Army street meeting. These two men with me in this leather bar began sharing their relationship with Jesus and their experience and what we used to call testimonies. One of those men was Dean Hyatt, while the other man who had actually brought Dean and I together, I never saw again. Dean and I became best friends from our first meeting. Dean and I had the kind of meeting that had happened to me once before with my friend Steve. God said, "This is for you." Dean and I would not fully deal with our attraction to each other until my partner and I had ended. When we did end, that's when the real battle began. Property rights, everything else. But it did end. Over a 9-month period, God and I fought about possession, security, and Dean. Early in our friendship, Dean had shared with me his history and his HIV status. As Dean and I began to fall in love, I spent a good deal of time telling God, "I have problems with the gift that you want to give me." I was terrified. Steve, Donnie, Lee, God, I don't want to lose another person. I don't want to take this chance. I don't want to love and lose again. I don't want to lose my security. How can I take this chance? God simply said, "Give me your fear, I can take it." So I did. And here we are. But Paul talks about Christians presenting themselves as living sacrifices. Well, Paul, you didn't bother to mention that the problem